So I'm here with Peter Fensham, the first professor in science education in Australia, but also a great mover and shaker in forming ASERA, and you are also a life member of ASERA. So Peter, welcome, and I would like you to start to tell us something about how ASERA came into being.
The first dean of the faculty, Professor Selby Smith, had decided, and I think the university supported him strongly, that he would turn this Faculty of Education into a leading research institute. So I was appointed to do that, and by 1970 I'd had several master's students, and there were two people on the staff who had science backgrounds and been science teachers, Paul Gardner and Lindsay Mackay, and they both signed up to do PhDs. And then I think in 1969 Dick White came under a new scheme which we'd managed to create. So we had a little nucleus of people who were already starting to do research, and I thought it's very important that they start mingling with other people doing research. And I knew some people at Macquarie and also a few people like Dick Tisher at the University of Queensland. So I think it was in 1970 we called a meeting, and I think there were a dozen or so people there, and we decided, we shared what we were doing about research, and we decided that the next year we'd have a full-blown conference and invite people from wherever in Australia to come. And then we had to decide what sort of conference we were going to have. Well, we decided that it wasn't going to be like the conferences I attended when I was a chemist, where you have keynote speakers of great distinction who talk about work which we've already read about, if you're a keen student in the field, and they're very expensive. So we decided two things. We'd make the conference as cheap as possible, so we would not have keynote speakers. The second thing was that the purpose of bringing people together was to encourage research, so that we would create a different sort of conference whereby students could participate equally with the few of us who had some research background. So we decided on this very strange format and culture for the organisation, that everybody would have 45 minutes or 40 minutes, of which half was for presentation of their work and half was for constructive criticism.
So Peter, what would be your advice to somebody who's just starting out in the science ed research field in terms of whether they should go to ASERA? What would be in it for them?
Well, I think it's important for them to go because they would have the opportunity to listen to a wide range of papers presented, because we've managed to stick to the 40-minute presentation, compared with, I'll say, 10 or 15 minutes at international conferences.
That's right, yes.
So we've managed to stick to the 40 minutes, which is a long time, relatively, for presenting your paper, by having more and more parallel sessions. So the bigger the conference, we just accommodate and stick to our 40 minutes by having more parallel sessions. So there's a great variety of papers now, because the conferences roughly are about 100 to 120 people now, which means there's a lot of work being presented. They'll also find an atmosphere which is very congenial and supportive, and it's a very good way of getting comment and criticism on your research, either on your research en route and your intended methods and intended where you're going, or even if you're presenting what is essentially, you think, a fairly complete paper, but this is one way of getting someone other than your supervisor to make comments and suggestions.
Okay, so Peter, thank you very much for your time today and for those insights into ASERA. And I'm sure it will continue to go from strength to strength, but thank you very much for reminding us about why it's so important.
Yeah.
Thank you.